This one too. Hey everybody. Want to give a shout out hello to Ryan, Rolling Water, Lawrence, great to see you. KC, good to see you. Carly, Bizwoofer, great to see you both. Electric says, thanks for your insight, Mark. I'm not sure I would reach escape velocity without you. You're very welcome. I'm glad the information's helped you. Kyla in the shizzy. Hey Eddie, good to see you. Dusty, good to see you. Uni, hello. Roxana, great to see you both. Roxana. True Detective. Andre. New Ace, good to see you both. Hello, hello. A lot of familiar faces. Feynman, great to see you. Check out Feynman's Variety channel. And I think I said hello to Rolling Water, and I want to welcome Always Looking Up and Saratoga for renewing and joining the Last Timers Club. Appreciate you both. And everyone else who's a member. Hello, Aaron. Good to see you too. Howdy, howdy. All right, so, and hello to everyone over on Rumble and Odyssey as well. So tonight, let me get into the other screen here for a moment. Make sure we're good. One moment, guys. I forgot I reset again, and so the camera probably. There we go. Hello. Oh, camera's on. I'm waving to nobody. I'm waving to myself, actually. Hello, everybody. Good to see you. Centered there. All right. So tonight we are going to be diving into part 2 of Your Past Lives. And I'm looking forward to it. I have it queued up to where we were. I rewound it just a little bit, maybe like 20 seconds, 30 seconds, just so it's like a better continuation. Again, this is Your Past Lives, a Reincarnation Handbook by Michael Talbot. And we're going cover to cover until the end. So there will be a number of streams to come until we finish the book. Just as a reminder to those who are members, the Last Timers Club and the stream level 2 and higher, we will be having the October member stream this Saturday. It's not going to be Sunday, this Saturday, and then the November monthly member stream will be on the 30th, which is normal Sunday. Okay, so just check the description tab for further information, just so you have it. I think we're going to be starting at 8 o'clock Eastern. So just as a reminder, it won't be on a Sunday for the October stream. All right. So let's get into this, and I'm looking forward to diving further into the book with y'all. I had a great chat last time. It's great. I really loved it, and it's just awesome seeing everybody again. I know we haven't been hanging out much, but really appreciate you being here. And if you're new to the channel, please give this information a chance. Check out the catalog. You may be shocked at what you discover and how you can apply the information shared here for your own research to see the truth about what's really going on in this wacky realm we call Earth and the human experience. I like to go with the data. I like to go with the patterns. And I think it's really, really important to find out the truth through things like experiencer cases and trial and error on your own. And the data speaks for itself. We're in some sort of wacky realm, and we've all been under a case of amnesia. And our number one goal is to figure that out, right? Like, find who and what we are. Don't let the system or anybody or anything tell us that we aren't our own sovereign self, our own creator being, capable of making our own decisions, not needing to listen to any entities who likes to call themselves God or some sort of deity or get linked in through attachments like those that we care about and love most. It's not that we don't enjoy and cherish those relationships while we're still here, but it's about what all the mechanics that happen behind all that leading into at death. Okay. And the attachments and the soul group are a huge part of that. And they are the reason why, a big reason why we keep coming back here. And so the whole point of this channel is to talk about how to avoid all that and how to prove it to yourself that yes, these layers of deception are happening and they're right there. They're all available to be found and researched on your own. And if you use this channel as kind of like a springboard, you'd be surprised at how easy you can take this research and find out on your own as well. Okay, so my mic might have been a little low there, but let's get into this. Here we go, guys. Appreciate you all. And boom. There we go.
Religions. Because of the intensity of feeling that usually accompanies spiritual beliefs, most people can readily identify gods and religions they were drawn to in previous lives. You may even find that you have an icon or two from a past life religion as a knickknack or art object in your house or apartment. Have you always had a special affinity for Buddhism, Christianity, Egyptian gods, witchcraft, Druidism, statues of Shiva, Taoism, or the writings of the Sufis? In addition to checking various religions for resonance, look at your innate attitudes about religion. Are you more naturally drawn to worshiping in groups or to private worship in your home? Such proclivities may indicate past life habits of worship. Similarly, look at those religions that inspire an inexplicable aversion in you. Have you always had a mysterious dislike for a certain sect or for religion in general? Such feelings may be the result of past life persecutions. Animals. Evidence suggests that a close affinity for a particular type of animal may indicate a past life association. If you have always had a special attraction for horses, you have probably been around horses in a previous life. If your love of cats borders on an obsession, you may have loved cats in a previous incarnation or even worship them. Try looking through bestiaries or natural history books to find resonances for animals that might give you clues to previous lives. Climate. One of the more interesting past life resonances that seems to stay with us is our ability to tolerate a particular climate. Stevenson has found that Asian children who remember past lives as Europeans or Americans.
Okay, just for clarification, he's talking about Dr. Ian Stevenson from University of Virginia Division of Perceptual Studies. He's since passed, but excellent work.
Children who remember past lives as Europeans or Americans are far more likely to complain about the heat in the tropical climates in which they have been reborn than Asian children who remember past lives as Asians. Look for your own resonances in this area. Have you always felt that you belonged in a climate different from the one in which you grew up? Body karmas. Research has shown that sometimes injuries suffered during a previous incarnation can still affect the body in this life. Because of this, you can also check for various body karmas or resonances. To do this, think of the various portions of your body, paying particular attention to parts that have given you repeated problems. See if you sense any past life resonance for those areas. Unusual sensitivities about certain parts of your body can also indicate body karmas. An aversion to having things pointed at your eyes or head may indicate a latent past life memory of a head injury. If you are especially sensitive about wearing scarves or items of clothing which fit snugly around your neck, you may have suffered a neck injury in a previous life. Even something as simple as a slight nervousness or overprotectiveness about a certain part of your body may be a clue that will allow you to unlock a past life memory. For example, one day I discovered that whenever I got nervous, I had a curious habit of feeling my neck, almost as if I were checking to make sure that it was all right. It suddenly occurred to me that I had performed this strange gesture hundreds and even thousands of times throughout my life, but had never been conscious of what I was doing. However, as soon as awareness of the mannerism crept above my threshold of consciousness, in a flash I realized that my throat had been injured in a previous life, and on a subliminal level I was still reliving that trauma. Phobias and fears can also be the product of past life traumas. Examine any fears you have, such as a mysterious fear of water, heights, guns, or fire, and try to determine whether these have any past life resonance for you. Physical traits. There is evidence that physical traits, such as skin tone and hair color, may carry over from one life to the next. Stevenson reports that in Burma he discovered a number of children who remember past lives as British or American pilots who died when they were shot down over that country during World War II, and all of them have fairer hair and complexions than their Burmese countrymen. 7 Stevenson even cites instances in which children still possess many of the facial features of their previous incarnations. Although scientific evidence of this is sparse, a number of gifted spiritual individuals and great mystics of the past have also asserted that our physical characteristics do not always change much from one life to the next. For example, Paramahansa Yogananda said that just as we can still see traces in adults' faces of the children they once were, we also retain similar traces of facial features from our previous incarnations. However, Yogananda said that we have one feature which changes very little from one life to the next. The eyes especially will be like they were before. Eyes hardly change because they are the windows of the soul. Those whose eyes reflect anger or fear or wickedness should try to change, to remove unlovely qualities that hide and hinder the expression of the beauty of the soul. Owing to the change of environment and company, your mind and body change somewhat, but the eyes change little. You are reborn with the same expression in them. To find resonances in your physical characteristics, try looking into a mirror and meditating on your features, specifically your eyes, for a few moments to see what echoes and ancient familiarities are there. Personality traits. Look at all those personality traits.
The other thing I'd like to add, I don't remember if he goes into this, but mirror meditation and reflection is really interesting. It's freaky. It's weird. Another thing you can try that's a little less intense, but can be freaky too, just throwing it out there so you know, is getting yourself a clear glass bowl, like a bigger one, maybe like a mixing bowl or something in between that. Fill it up with just water and then stare into the water. And sometimes you can get some wild stuff happening. People do talk about discovering past lives, or seeing visions, we can say, all sorts of stuff. So I think those are two decent methods to consider. But just beware that it can get a little weird sometimes, especially if you're putting some time into something like that. But it's all right. The mirror's not going to come out and get you, or the water. You'll be fine. It's just a little weird.
To see what echoes and ancient familiarities are there. Personality traits. Look at all those personality traits that you seem to have been born with. Have you always been peaceful, nervous, drivingly ambitious, haunted by a fear of failure or self-pity? Do you have a tendency toward violent temper? Have you always been religious, or filled with a feeling that you were in this life to help others or to accomplish some important task or purpose? Examine social issues and see whether you have resonance for any of them. If you find that you have never been directly hurt by racism, but it still makes you fighting angry, perhaps you have been a victim of racism in a previous life. Or if you find that your heart has always gone out to orphans, to the poor, to rape victims, or war refugees, perhaps you have experienced that kind of social injustice before. Look at how you feel about the opposite sex and at how much of the opposite sex you see in yourself. If you are a man but have always had a more sensitive or feminine side, you have probably been a woman in a recent past life. If you are a woman but have always had a more aggressive or masculine side than most women, you are probably being influenced a little by one of your male past lives. Remember, seeing a bit of the opposite sex in yourself is not something to be ashamed of. If reincarnation is a fact, its purpose appears to be to allow each of us to see life from every angle and to grow into beings far richer and more multifaceted than the narrow boundaries cultural convention sometimes places upon us. To perceive both male and female aspects in your personality may therefore be a sign of growth, an indication that you have broken out of a constriction and have drawn on many sources to become who and what you are in this life. As you look at yourself and search for further resonances, consider also the major life issues that seem to be facing you in this life. After a little thought, most people find that in spite of the complexity of their existence, their lives still seem to have one or more basic and overriding themes. You may find that your major theme in life is to be loved or have a family, or it may be to develop yourself as an artist, a healer, a business person, a world leader, to amass great wealth, or to constantly confront situations that force you to deal with jealousy, persecution, or power. If you are very honest with yourself, you may find that your theme has always been to control or manipulate others, to accomplish impressive feats in order to compensate for a bad inner self-image, to suffer or even to hurt or be hurt by individuals you love. Examine these areas for resonance, for they, too, may be the result of a saga that has been going on for many lifetimes. Finally, after you have compiled a list of your major personality traits, goals, issues you feel strongly about, and so on, look at the antithesis of each of these things and check that for resonance also. For example, you may find that you have an urge to be a healer in this life to make up for the fact that you were once a warrior and were responsible for the death or injury of many people in a previous incarnation. Or you may find that you are devoted to teaching or the dissemination of information in this life, because you have resonance for the fact that you once lived a life in which you were responsible for the censoring of information.
Okay, so there's like just like with this type of stuff, I don't know, like I feel it's correct and not at the same time, and maybe, you know, it just depends on the individual. But again, like this is all like predicated on the overwhelming narrative we get from those who do research into past lives, right? That we're here to work on our karma and right the wrongs of the past lives that we've whatever we've done, right? Et cetera, et cetera. Oh, sorry, the music's going on in the background, isn't it? I'm sorry. I didn't know that. But at the same time, like I can't help but in the back of my head always ask, but then why does the baggage come with us and we're not aware of it, you know? Like he was talking about earlier, and we've talked about in the first stream and many other streams related to past lives, how past life trauma, phobias, fears, etc., carry over into the current incarnation and how they can impact us, usually unknowingly, but you can figure some of that out knowingly much later in life, right? So I feel like there might be a conflict there because of the overwhelming assumption on, oh, well, you could have been this, but you're here and you're doing the opposite of this to do better and work on that karma. Now, some of that may be true, maybe, because again, remember, it's all like belief-based things about the Matrix, and the Matrix is concerned with one thing and one thing only, and that's getting us back here. So it could spin the wheels till the cows come home. As long as you end up coming back here, that's all that matters. And whatever method of deception, trickery needs to be done to get you or I back here, whatever it was, that's what the Matrix is going to do. And there's examples of that out there. It's not like it's even, like I even interviewed someone who went through it. And you can refer to Shared Death Experiencer Mary, who had some pre-birth memories. You can check that out. It was a number of years ago. But anyways, I'm not going to go into her whole story, but feel free to check that out. And there's other examples too. But like in a way, like I don't doubt that some of this could be true and part of someone's life script, pre-birth planning, all that stuff. But on the other end, I'm not 100% sold on it. I think it's situational, in some way. But again, I'm not discounting it. I'm just throwing that out there as it perhaps being a little bit more unknown than we may think. Again, I can't say with any certainty. You know me, I like to kind of go where the data leads, but it's just kind of like a suspicion, I guess.
Responsible for the censoring of information. People you might have known before. If you are like most people, you have probably already sensed resonance for certain individuals without knowing precisely what you were sensing. Just about everyone has had the experience of meeting someone and immediately feeling a deep and mysterious familiarity. Sometimes the familiarity manifests as an instant feeling of kinship or friendship. Sometimes it manifests as an immediate dislike, but whatever the case, it is often an indication of past life association. Once you know what you are looking for, it is relatively easy to sense whether you have resonance for any of your current family members, friends, and acquaintances. When you do this, it is sometimes helpful to try to forget the visual image and relationship you have with the individual in this life. Also put aside their gender, and try not to view them as confined to being either a man or a woman or even any particular sexual orientation. Then close your eyes and see whether you sense any resonance for who and what you feel the person is on the inside, for their essence. Not only should you find the answer to your question waiting in the background resonance of your thoughts, but you may suddenly see an image of what the person looked like when you knew him or her before, getting through to your unconscious mind. Once they have been told how, most people learn to sense resonance so readily they are surprised they never thought about it before. However, if you are one of the few who has difficulty, you may be having a problem detaching from your conscious thoughts. Since learning to detach from the chatter of your conscious thoughts is the key to virtually all methods of past life recall, You may want to skip ahead to Chapter 4 and practice a few relaxation techniques before returning to the resonance method. If you still cannot sense resonance and feel that detaching from your conscious thoughts is not your problem, you may find one of the following methods of communicating with your unconscious mind a better alternative. Using a pendulum.
One of the easiest and most time-tested ways of communicating with your inner self without entering any altered state of consciousness is to use a pendulum. Many psychologists teach the technique to their patients and find that the information thus obtained is remarkably accurate. In his book Self-Hypnotism, clinical psychologist Leslie M. Lucron tells of one study in which 402 pregnant women were asked to use a pendulum to determine the sex of their unborn child. According to Lucron, 360 obtained information with a pendulum that ultimately proved correct, including 3 mothers for whom the pendulum accurately predicted twins. Lucron notes that the only times the pendulum proved inaccurate appeared to be when the mothers did not properly detach from their conscious thoughts and allowed wishful thinking to affect their result. Pendulums have also...
Okay, wishful thinking affecting their result. That can't be stated enough. Pendulum, dowsing rods, they are areas where you can get ahead of yourself. You can be putting in expectations and getting confirmation bias from things like that. They should be used sparingly, in my opinion. Just be careful. That's all I'll say. Make sure you got, check in on yourself. Don't overuse or over expect things from them. But they can be useful tools. No doubt. They can be. But just don't let it be something that you're letting control your daily life. That's what I would say. Really important to please just take note of what I just said. Please. Just be careful.
From their conscious thoughts and allowed wishful thinking to affect their result. Pendulums have also been used to tap into the unconscious psychic abilities of individuals. T.C. Lethbridge, the late archaeologist and keeper of Anglo-Saxon antiquities at the University Museum of Cambridge, England, claimed to obtain accurate information about archaeological relics by consulting a pendulum. Lethbridge asserted that with a pendulum he could detect a latent residue of anger in a sling stone used in a battle 2,000 years ago. To make a pendulum, tie a small, weighted object, such as a wedding ring, a needle, or a pointed quartz pendant, onto a thread 8 to 10 inches long. Allow the thread to dangle loosely from your thumb and finger with the elbow planted firmly on a level surface, wrist relaxed. Once you have done this, you are now ready to establish the pendulum's possible answers. First, ask the pendulum a question which you know has a yes answer. For example, you can ask it whether it's Monday. Now wait for the pendulum to respond. As with sensing resonance, it is important not to try to consciously influence the pendulum. Simply relax and allow the pendulum to dangle.
Okay, I'm just going to rewind this. Very important. It's very important.
As with sensing resonance, it is important not to try to consciously influence the pendulum.
Very, very important.
Simply relax and allow the pendulum to dangle freely, and soon you will notice that it will begin to move. The pendulum has 3 basic patterns that it can move in. It can move in a clockwise circle. It can move in a counterclockwise circle, or it can swing in a diagonal. Usually the unconscious mind will choose one circular direction for yes and the other for no. The unconscious mind can then use the diagonal to indicate that the question which was asked cannot be answered with a simple yes or no. This means that the question should be rephrased. If the unconscious mind still replies with a diagonal, it indicates that either it does not know the answer or it does not want to answer. You can determine which of these two options is correct by further questioning. Remember, if your unconscious mind tells you it does not want to answer a question, don't push it. If you like, you may come up with yes or no questions to determine why the pendulum has warned you away from a certain subject, but never blunder ahead and try to explore regions that your unconscious mind has advised you to leave alone. It makes such warnings for your own good, and it would be foolhardy to ignore its cautions. To make sure that you have understood the way your own unconscious prefers to respond, ask it a list of questions to which you already know the answers. In formulating these questions, remember that your unconscious mind interprets everything much more literally than your conscious mind. It is not unlike the genie in stories about magic wishes, so your questions should be clear and very carefully worded. Once you have established which movements mean yes, no, and ask again in a different way, you are ready to proceed to use the pendulum in the resonance method. Simply go over each item in the various categories in this chapter and ask the pendulum to tell you which ones you have past life resonances with. Individuals who find that they can sense resonance on their own may also wish to use a pendulum to ask their unconscious minds further questions about what they discover. You may want to ask the pendulum if you are ready to explore a particular past life memory. You can ask it if you are ready to embark on a new method of past life exploration and get its advice on which one would be best for you to try next. You may ask it if a strange dream you had was of a past life, or if you knew your current spouse in a previous life, or indeed any question about your former incarnations. Remember that the less you try to consciously influence the pendulum and muddy its responses with wishful thinking, the more accurate its replies will be. Using finger movement. Some individuals find that they do not even need to use a pendulum to communicate with their unconscious, but can have their unconscious signal them directly via finger movements. To try the finger movement method, sit in a comfortable chair and place your hands' palms down on the chair's arms. Put yourself into a state of relaxation and then proceed as with the pendulum method above. But instead of establishing yes, no, and ask again in a different way, with the aid of a pendulum, ask your unconscious mind to choose one of your 10 fingers to represent each response. Some people find that with a little practice they can get their unconscious mind to cause a particular finger to move or twitch for each of the above answers. If you find that you can do this, you can then continue as if you were using a pendulum, but substituting finger movements for pendulum movements. Once you have familiarized yourself with the resonance method, you will find that it has many advantages over other types of past life exploration. Because it requires no elaborate preparation, you can employ it at a moment's notice at virtually any time of the night or day. You can check for resonance when you meet new people, when you go to museums, when you visit new places, attend concerts, look through books and magazines, browse through antique shops, and even when you daydream. This makes the resonance method an excellent technique for beginners. However, because the resonance method is so easy and allows you to process so much information, it can also be a valuable adjunct to more advanced past life techniques as well. It can help you quickly determine time periods and cultures on which you should concentrate further efforts, and it can even help you amass more details about those memories once you have unearthed them. Dreaming technique. The question of karma is obscure to me, as is also the problem of personal rebirth or the transmigration of souls. With a free and open mind, I listen attentively to the Indian doctrine of rebirth, and look around in the world of my own experience to see whether somewhere and somehow there is some authentic sign pointing toward reincarnation. Until a few years ago, I could not discover anything convincing in this respect. Recently, however, I observed in myself a series of dreams which would seem to describe the process of reincarnation. Since this observation is subjective and unique, I prefer only to mention its existence and not to go into it any further. I must confess, however, that after this experience I view the problem of reincarnation with somewhat different eyes. See G. Jung, Memories, Dreams, Reflections. After learning how to sense resonance, perhaps the next easiest way for you to make contact with your past life memories is through your dreams. Although it has long been known that dreams are storehouses of information about our past in this life, there is evidence that they frequently contain a good deal of past life information as well. For example, in 1981, psychic researcher D. Scott Rogo of John F. Kennedy University in Orinda, California, placed a notice in several psychic-oriented magazines asking interested readers to send him accounts of reincarnation memories they had experienced that had emerged in any way other than through hypnosis. In his 1985 book, The Search for Yesterday, Rogo reported that spontaneous past life memories which surfaced in dreams constituted the largest group of credible accounts. One New York Institute of Technology parapsychologist, Dr. Hans Halser, another longtime investigator of the reincarnation phenomenon, has also found that dreams are a frequent wellspring of spontaneous past life memories. Hosler believes that this is because the mind is less resistant to such information during the dream state than when it is awake, and notes that such dreams are by no means limited to believers in reincarnation. The people to whom events of this kind happen come from all walks of life, all social backgrounds, and all ages. There is nothing specific about them, nothing that would single them out as being prone to reincarnation memories or even to psychic phenomena. Halser cites the case of a California housewife named Juanita Thompson. At the age of 10, Thompson had an unusually vivid dream that she was a woman who had lived in a small town somewhere in rural America. As Thompson grew older, the dream kept recurring and was so richly detailed that she was able to render a drawing of the place, complete with road layout, placement of shops, and the way the town was situated amid the surrounding hills. When Thompson was 18 years old and on a cross-country trip that took her through Zanesville, Ohio, she suddenly found herself swept with a powerful sense of déjà vu. Not only was Zanesville the town she had drawn as a child, but the first thought that suddenly and inexplicably entered her mind as she drove through was, "There are a lot more houses now." Although numerous researchers have reported similar occurrences, one of the first to realize that a past life dream can actually be induced was New York Jungian analyst Erlo Van Waveren. Early in their careers, both Van Waveren and his wife, New York psychotherapist and Van Waveren, studied directly with Dr. Jung, and after the war were frequent visitors at the Jung Institute in Zurich. It was at this time, when Van Waveren was in his early 40s, that he had a dream that God appeared to him and transported him to the world of the dead. The dream left Van Waveren profoundly shaken, but he realized it was his psyche's way of telling him that there was something about the mysteries of death which he was meant to explore. So, with the assistance of his wife, he entered a state of meditation to see what he could find out. To his surprise, as soon as he was deeply relaxed, his mind suddenly became filled with what appeared to be memories of a previous existence. Moreover, he found that he had the choice but to allow the information to come tumbling out of his mouth. He states, "I found myself telling and the purpose of both my present and former life as naturally as if I had been gossiping over a cup of tea. Because of this voice which spoke from rock bottom, I was firmly convinced that in my former life I had been a teacher of life's values and had returned to continue in that work. With the catalytic curiosity of a true wife, and asked me naturally and oh, so calmly, "But have you any idea who you were?" And just as calmly, it spoke right through me and said, "Fenelon." I was stunned and could have been knocked over with a feather. Van Waveren went on to discover that Fenelon was a French archbishop during the reign of Louis XIV, but he became so upset when he re-experienced the emotions and frustrations that Fenelon had not been able to resolve during his lifetime that he ended his meditation before feeling he had truly understood the import of his dream. Skeptical about his experience and the idea of reincarnation in general, but impressed by the power and emotional content of his vision, Van Waveren decided to try another tack. That night, before he went to bed, he asked his psyche to explain what it was attempting to communicate to him by providing him with another dream. He was not disappointed, as he wrote in his 1978 book Pilgrimage to the Rebirth. That night he had a dream that he was in a hall of justice and that he was a man trying to break off an engagement with his new fiancée. However, the judge refused to grant his request and told him it was a marriage that must take place. Van Waveren awoke with a start and realized immediately that his unconscious was telling him that his rational side had to accept the new alliance it had formed with that portion of his psyche which contained his past life memories. Indeed, his unconscious had told him more than that. In the dream, the judge had raised his right arm and revealed that there were 9 glistening diamonds floating in the air. Van Waveren realized that his dreaming self was telling him that not 1, but 9 marriages were going to take place. He had 9 previous lives with which he was going to have to become reacquainted. As promised, in the weeks that followed, Van Waveren's psyche went on to provide him with a series of dreams about his former incarnations. How to recognize a past life dream. Frequently, something about a dream will immediately tell you that it refers to one of your former lives. For example, in a study of past life dreams, psychologist Frederick Lenz of the New School for Social Research in New York City found that many subjects were instantly swept with the awareness that what they were dreaming was a scene out of one of their former existences. In his book Lifetimes, he cites observations made by Pamela Cohen, a Montreal hospital worker who has had many past life dreams, as typical of such experiences. Cohen states, "Dreams of my past lives are much clearer and more vivid than my regular dreams. They tell me things that help me understand certain feelings I have about things. Normally when I dream, I'm not aware that I am dreaming. It's something I'm caught up in. But in these dreams I was fully aware the whole time that I was seeing into my past." Another indication that a dream may be a past life memory is if you find yourself wearing clothing from some other culture or age, or if you find that you are a completely different person or even a different sex in your dream than you are in your waking state. Even just noticing that other people around you are wearing clothing from a different era may indicate a reincarnational dream. Of course, such dreams may also have other meanings, but you should keep a record of them in your journal and view them as potential pieces of past life information. One final indication that a dream may contain past life information is if it has an unusually powerful feeling of reality about it, or if it doesn't seem to have anything to do with your waking life, but still has such an impact on you that you aren't able to forget it. Past life therapists have found that
See, like, that's key right there. Are there things in your life as an adult, or maybe things you can reflect upon as a child that have carried on into your adult life that stick out like a sore thumb? They're things that are just, you're not necessarily always thinking about them, but they're always appearing in the back of your mind throughout your life, right? write those down. Think about those moments. What brought up that thought in said moment, and kind of like document them, right? Even things like we were talking about earlier, like deja vu, right? There are, we've all had it, right? But there are moments like, I think I shared this on the channel. I'm just going to do a little sidebar about this. When I was probably like 16, I was working for a company, cooking food, and the boss would have like a big summer blowout at the end of the year, and he'd invite all the employees, everybody, right? And he moved to this specific area not far from me, maybe about like 20 minutes, 30 minutes away. And as I was driving there, I had like this insane, like deep realization that I had been there before. I never drove through this area, even though it wasn't far from my house. It was an area I'd never drove through ever, or been through ever. And I felt like I had been there before, like in a certain area. I pulled over. It was like such a strong thing. I was young and naive and stupid, right? I didn't know what the hell was going on, but like I was just blown away at like how impactful it was. And to this day, I think about that moment and the connection. I could visualize the area. It was kind of like a rolling hill area. Like it was a newly developed street and everything. He had just moved into the house like, I don't know, maybe like a year before or something. And it was just, I always think about that. Other things, I'm not going to go down a whole bunch of lists of things, but there are moments like that that I think all of us have to some extent. And just think back. They should be easily accessible memories because of how profound they are. And see what you can do to work off of that. It likely means something. And it likely means something not related to this lifetime, but a past lifetime of some sort. So just throwing that out there.
Waking life, but still has such an impact on you that you aren't able to forget it. Past life therapists have found that recurring dreams are a especially good candidate. This does not mean that every recurrent dream you have is a past life dream, or that past life information cannot surface in single dreams. But if you find that you do have a recurrent dream that has troubled you for months or even years, you might examine it closely for possible past life information. What do spontaneous past life dreams mean? As Van Waveren's experience suggests, a past life dream is often the first way the unconscious starts to unfold a past life memory, or series of past life memories, to an individual. One reason for this is that the dreaming mind is less resistant to such information than the waking mind. Dreaming also seems to be one of the more gentle ways the inner self uses to prepare the waking self for a particular piece of past life information, and therapists often find that patients begin to dream about a particular past life memory as a prelude to confronting it in a more conscious state, or even in other states of past life awareness such as a hypnotic trance. Similarly, spontaneous past life dreams are often the unconscious mind's way of sending a telegram to the waking self and telling it that there is some past life information that it might benefit from knowing. As Clyde Reed, a Boulder, Colorado past life therapist, has noted in his book Dreams, Discovering Your Inner Teacher, 7 many dreams are invitations calling us to deeper dialogues with the unconscious, but past life dreams are especially significant. He states, I am convinced that most past life episodes that come up in our dreams are invitations to further work. They invite us to deal with that life or that memory by showing us a portion of the experience. Remembering your dreams. Before you can learn how to induce a past life dream, you must first be able to remember your dreams. For some individuals, this is second nature, but for others, it is a talent that takes a bit of practice. If you find that you are a person who rarely remembers your dreams, or fear that you never dream at all, don't become discouraged. Numerous studies have shown that virtually everyone dreams, and as long as you are dedicated and willing to make an effort, dream recall is a relatively simple ability to acquire. Keep a dream journal. One of the best ways to teach your mind to remember your dreams is to keep a dream journal. Keeping such a journal serves several purposes. First, it communicates to your unconscious mind that you are serious about remembering your dreams. Part of the reason many people forget their dreams is that they have never communicated to their inner selves that they want to remember them. Keeping a dream journal also gives your dream memory the regular workout it needs in order to be able to remember. Remembering dreams is like doing push-up. You must practice in order to be able to perform the task with any regularity, and if you stop for a while, you may have to start all over again to get the ability back. Lastly, by dating and keeping a record of your dreams, you will be able to perceive patterns and recurring themes more clearly that you might otherwise miss. You can set aside part of your past life journal as a dream diary, or you can keep a separate notebook or folder for your dreams and record only those that contain potential reincarnational memories in your past life journal.
Okay, so, just going to throw this out there and make of it what you will, and I don't want to discourage anyone from possibly taking dreams and implementing it into a past life, a possible past life. But personally, I'm not as sold on it. I do think that I'm not discounting it, right? I just think that because dreams can be so overflowing with all sorts of experiences that I'm not going to say meaningless, but don't have, in my opinion, and again, I'm speaking for me, that don't necessarily have anything to do with a past life. Or maybe you'll have like a fragment that may have something to do with a past life, and then a bunch of stuff squished in between, right? That's why I think like something like a more dedicated, lucid awareness practice into identifying past lives is more valuable than something plucked from a dream state. Does that mean you shouldn't keep a dream journal, or maybe leave it up for consideration that something had a moment of truth about a past life? No, I mean, just do whatever you feel is best for you. I haven't found much in that area personally, but I know others swear by it. So I'm just throwing that out there. Don't let my words discourage you from taking Michael Talbot's advice and applying it as such. But I don't know. I just feel like it's a lot of stuff condensed into one dream. And but if something sticks out to you, something resonates heavily with you, write it down. Explore it, see what you can do to expand on it, and maybe learn something more from it that may connect it to a past life. I mean, the possibilities are endless. It's just for me, I haven't yielded a lot from it personally. I want to. We're gonna go just sidebar really quickly because Kyla left an interesting comment, and I want to kind of pivot off that. So just give me a few minutes here. All right, so Kyla says, I know of someone who as a child had a miraculous healing of his arm while in church camp. They thought it was God. A part of me feels these healings happen to reinforce the Matrix belief systems. That is what I believe too. I think I can sign on to that too. Kyle also says, if some of my dreams are past life memories, then I've lived through some wild shit. Some dreams are like I'm watching third person and I have a completely different body. Definitely a possibility. Yeah. I think some of you may have heard me mention on the channel before. I have a cousin, I was young at the time too. And he was maybe, I think he's about 5 years younger than me, maybe. And he was off the charts. And I don't think he's listening, but if he is, nothing personal. He's a great guy. Turned into a great guy. But he had a lot of issues in his early childhood. And my aunt and uncle brought him to the church to see the pastor for a healing, and almost exactly what Kyla said. Like, put his hand on him, and like I'm not even joking. He changed overnight. Everything was fine. Like, instantly, within the next day. Of course, my aunt and uncle, the majority of the family think, oh, it's a miraculous healing from Jesus, God, whatever, right? The priest, exorcism. It was literally an exorcism. That's what they went for. Okay. And he's been fine ever since. But, I lived through part of it. I experienced it. My parents experienced it. My aunt and uncle sure as heck experienced it. My cousins, it was, he had a lot of problems. And overnight, he changed. And he's been doing great ever since. Ever since. And to go to Kyla's comment, it's could have to do. I think we have a couple things going on, right? Like, we have reinforcement of things like miracles in the Matrix, right? About God or whatever religion may have some deity linked to it that implements healing. And so the Matrix reinforces that, yes, it can happen to you or this one or that one. Doesn't happen that often, but it happens. But then there's also the other side of it, right? Like, I wish I could have been a fly on the wall leading up to it to see, like, what my aunt was saying, what my uncle was saying, what the priest was saying, like, things that he needed to maybe be in the proper mindset leading into the exorcism, right? Because, we could also be talking intention too, mixed in with a life script that is destined for something like a miracle. I think we got a few things possibly working, or maybe one possibility of a small bowl to choose from. I don't know, but to this day, I'll never forget it. Never forget it. So interesting thought, Kyle. I appreciate it. Because it's just some of you may have heard me talk about it before. It was wild how much he changed, and just he's gone on to do great things in life. He's a great guy.
Keep the journal by your bedside along with a pen and a convenient light source. If you find it easier, an alternative is to keep a small tape recorder by your bed and record each as you remember it. Then, at a more convenient time, you can transfer your dictations to your dream journal. Dream technique number 1, basic meditation. Step 1. Clear your body of all drugs that cause drowsiness. It is important not to consume any alcohol or drugs that cause drowsiness during the day, because both tend to inhibit dream recall. If you are a regular consumer of alcohol, sleeping pills, or other drugs that affect the quality of sleep, you may have to go without them for several days before your system has cleaned itself out enough for you to be able to recall your dreams. Remember, of course, that you shouldn't suspend taking any prescription medications without first consulting your physician. Step 2. Start to relax by emptying your mind and slowing your rate of breathing after you are comfortably in bed. Empty your mind of all extraneous thoughts and start to relax by regulating your breathing. Breathe in and out in long, slow breath. Focus for a few moments on keeping your breathing as deep, unstrained, and relaxed as possible. Many schools of thought, both ancient and modern, have shown that the rate at which you breathe sets the pace for your entire physical emotional system. It is, in a sense, the orchestra conductor which sets the tempo for your meditative experience, and your breathing rate must remain slow, steady, and unstrained if you are to enter a state of relaxation. Step 3. Tell yourself that all of your daily concerns and worries are leaving you. Tell yourself, either mentally or aloud, that your mind is now uncluttered and very much at peace, and that no extraneous thoughts will disturb you as you continue your relaxation. Step 4. Talk to each part of your body and tell it to relax. Begin by focusing on your toes. Tell them either mentally or aloud that they are completely relaxed and that all tension and muscle aches and pains are seeping out of them. Continue to breathe in slow, steady, and unstrained exhalations as you imagine your toes becoming so relaxed that you can barely feel them. Once this is accomplished, do the same thing with the rest of your feet. Continue the process with your lower legs, upper legs, buttocks, abdomen, hands, forearms, upper arms, back, and neck. Finally, tell yourself that your entire body is now so completely relaxed that all you are aware of is your head, and that it, too, is so relaxed and at peace it feels like it is floating on a beautiful bed of cloud. Step 5. Tell yourself that you are going to remember your dreams once you have relaxed. Say aloud, "Tonight I am going to remember my dreams." Or, "Tonight I am going to wake up after each one of my dreams." Don't just mouth the words, but concentrate on their meaning and meditate on your intention for several minutes before falling asleep. For best results, it is important that you try to have this phrase be your last thought before drifting off to sleep. Given your state of deep relaxation, this shouldn't be too difficult. Otherwise, if you perform the procedure and then allow your active mind to kick in again with all of your thoughts, worries, and concerns about your daily life, the technique will not be as effective. Whether you are trying to remember your dreams or not, you should always use some technique to relax before you fall asleep, because your last thoughts tend to determine and program the quality of your sleep. If you are worried about something or your mind is racing a mile a minute as you drift off into unconsciousness, your sleep will be tense and restless, and you will be much more prone to anxiety dreams than if you relax before sleeping. Just before getting into bed, you might also spend a moment writing the evening state in your dream journal. This will cue your unconscious mind still further that you want to remember your dream. Step 6. Record any dreams you remember immediately on awakening. It is important that you record your dreams the moment you wake up from them, because dreams have a tendency to fade into a fog of forgetfulness if you do not immediately pay attention to them. As Cambridge, Massachusetts, psychiatrist Dr. Richard Goldwater observes, dreams are like fairies. If you leave them goodies and treat them well, you can dance with them. If you don't deal with them well, they'll ignore you. They won't come around unless you create a hospitable place for them. Many people are able to remember their dreams right away by using this method. However, if you have any problem, here are some further techniques for you to try. Dream technique number 2. The alarm clock method. If you are an unusually heavy sleeper, you may find it necessary to set an alarm clock for various intervals during the night. Or, if you prefer, set it for an hour or two before you have to get up and then keep setting it at half-hour intervals. The purpose of this is to try to have the alarm clock wake you up while you are in the middle of a dream. When this happens, quickly go over the details of the dream in your mind, and then record the dream in your dream journal or on a tape recorder. After relying on an alarm clock for a while, you will eventually teach your mind to remember dreams on its own. Dream technique number 3. Nutrients that encourage dream recall. There are several nutrients that encourage dream recall in some people. One is the essential amino acid phenylalanine that is found naturally in high-protein foods such as meat, cheese, and milk. Phenylalanine is one of the 2 amino acids found in the non-sugar sweetener aspartame, currently marketed as NutraSweet. Studies show that taking phenylalanine in its pure form on an empty stomach before retiring can reduce the amount of sleep an individual requires. I have found that, because it produces a lighter sleep, it can also greatly enhance dream recall. In health food stores, phenylalanine is available in 2 forms, DN-L-phenylalanine. I have found that 250 to 1,000 milligrams of L-phenylalanine taken on an empty stomach before retiring lead to a night of vivid dreaming. However, this effect appears to be temporary, and L-phenylalanine may stop working for you after a few nights. Phenylalanine also has some potential side effects that must be taken into consideration. In doses larger than 500 milligrams, it can cause headaches and insomnia in some people, and it should never be used by individuals with high blood pressure or a rare condition known as phenylketonuria. As with all vitamin and non-vitamin nutrients, to be on the safe side, always consult a physician before adding them to your dietary regimen. Another nutrient that is said to enhance the dreaming process, although it has never had this effect on me, is vitamin B12. B12 has no known toxicity and is found naturally in liver, yogurt, buttermilk, and most cheeses. I first learned of its dream-enhancing effects in Dirk Pearson and Sandy Shaw's book Life Extension. Vitamin B12 can cause spectacular intensification of colors in dreams, or sometimes even produce colors in dreams of people who never before had colored dreams. It works about half the time in the small group of people we know who've tried it. Sometimes the colors are so vivid they can wake you up. A dose of 1,000 micrograms or so is effective. Take it just as you get into bed to sleep. If you take the B12 half an hour before bed, the dream-enhancing effect rarely works. Tolerance to this vitamin effect on dreams develops rapidly. So if you use large doses of B12 every day, it is rather unlikely that this effect will occur. Again, although B12 is an extremely safe vitamin and has no known toxic side effects, it is best to consult your physician before taking it in the relatively large dosages required to enhance dreaming. Dream technique number 4. Discuss your dreams with your family and friends. Another way to encourage dream recall is to discuss your dreams on a regular basis with some interested family member, a friend, or even in a dream discussion group. One of the most striking examples that talking about dreams enhances recall can be found in the dreaming practices of an isolated jungle tribe known as the Sainwa, who live in the rainforests of the Malay Peninsula. Although many people in the so-called modern world may have difficulty remembering their dreams, the Sainwa have no problem whatsoever recalling all the myriad details of their nightly journeys through dreamland. This appears to be due in large part to the fact that not only do the Sainwa value their dreams as important sources of knowledge and guidance, but every morning on awakening the entire family gathers together to discuss their dreams. The Sainwa do more than just talk about their dreams. They also exert a good deal of control over them and work out many of their emotional and interpersonal problems in the medium of the dreamscape. For example, if a Sainwa child tells his parents that he dreamed he was being chased by a tiger, the parents gently instruct the child that when he goes to bed the following night, he must dream that he is being chased by a tiger again, only this time he will turn and attack the tiger, causing it to vanish. Similarly, if a Seinwa dreams that he has been attacked or affronted by a friend, he must go to the friend the following day and discuss the dream, making sure that any hidden animosities are worked out. Scientists who have studied the Seinwa point out that their dreaming techniques seem to work, for the Seinwa live in a culture that has no violent crime or armed conflict, and virtually no mental and physical disease. The American anthropologist and psychologist Kilton Stewart, who spent several years living among the Seinwa, concluded that they have built a system of interpersonal relations which, in the field of psychology, is perhaps on a level with our attainment in such areas as television and nuclear physics. Many modern dream researchers now believe that the Seinwa have much to teach us, and conclude that studying, thinking about, and talking about dreams enhance dream recall for two reasons. First, they are other ways of communicating to your unconscious mind that you want dreams to become an important part of your daily life. Second, because we tend to dream about the things that we spend a lot of time thinking about, talking about dreams has a feedback effect that enriches the entire dreaming process. Training yourself to dream about past lives. Once you are able to remember your dreams, you are ready to start programming them to tell you about your past lives. Many people are surprised to discover that programming a dream or getting a dream to answer a particular question is a remarkably easy process. It is also a very ancient practice. In her book Creative Dreaming, psychologist and dream researcher Dr. Patricia Garfield notes that techniques for programming dreams to answer specific questions have been found in Egyptian records dating from 3000 BC. The ancient Assyrians called the practice istikra, and among the ancient Greeks it was known as dream incubation. Many modern researchers have also developed methods for incubating dreams. Although devoid of the mythological jargon that accompanied ancient techniques, the essence of these techniques remain the same. Inducing a dream about one of your past lives, or about any matter on which you desire dream guidance, involves three basic steps. Step 1. After you have performed your nightly dream relaxation technique, spend some time thinking about what you want the dream to tell you and consider carefully the various possible answers you may receive. For example, you may want the dream to show you a past life scene that you would like to become reacquainted with, or you may want a dream that will show you an undiscovered past life talent. Step 2. Once you know what you want the dream to tell you, formulate your request in one clear and simple statement. You should always be careful to tell your unconscious mind that you do not wish to unearth any past life memories that will be too traumatic or painful for you to deal with. Once I made the error of asking a dream to tell me about a particular past life injury without adding this qualifier and found myself tossing and turning for a week with vivid nightmares of how I had died during a 12th century Persian war. Because of this possibility, you may also want to consult a pendulum before asking a particular question, and then you can ask if your chosen subject is a safe one for you to dream about. Or you can simply couch your question in a way that will rule out a too painful answer. For example,
there's really no perfect way to do things. I think he's giving good advice, like basically consulting the pendulum or even consulting your intuition within. And I guess it also, I'll go out and also say that I think depending on the type of death you had or the type of life you had that you are linking into, it could be heavily traumatic. There could be multiple traumatic deaths or life experiences that you had in a previous life. And so those things can rack the brain. If you look at children who talk about their past lives, a lot of them will cry and it's heartbreaking, right? If you look into the accounts or you see the videos, it's heartbreaking. how they express their pain. And as adults, connecting to that isn't necessarily always going to be a walk in the park. So it's really important to keep that in mind when you're going through this type of work, because these are things that can happen. And it's just really, really important to know that prior to getting involved. Sometimes it's important to be in a more controlled environment, like with a hypnotherapist that you trust, that you know, that you feel comfortable with, right? Because then the session's in, the session's out, and there's there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and then it can continue if you wish, if you've connected with them in some way. But as someone who's kind of spent a lot of time on this stuff, I'm not recommending anyone. I'll never recommend anyone again. I got burned really bad when I did, and I'm just not going to do it. And so, my advice is just be careful with who you pick. Make sure that if you're going to do this, that they're actually a certified. They went to school. You can verify they went to school. They went through all the courses and graduated, and that you can verify they are a hypnotherapist. A. B, that they're not involved in clown organizations, some of which we talked about in the first video, and under certain regression modalities that they again are certified, like they've spent the time. And you don't want to, no offense to anyone who may be a new hypnotherapist or a new regression therapist, but this is sensitive stuff. This isn't like you going out and trying to quit smoking or something. This is something that could potentially be traumatic and difficult to process. So you want someone who is on your side, who has done this a number of times. And that's not to say that someone new involved in this field isn't on your side, because I'm sure there's many that are well-meaning and are on your side. But the point is in a realm like we live in, especially when it comes to something like past life regressions, there's a lot of bad eggs out there, a lot. And so my point is why take a chance, right? Why put yourself in a situation where you could end up with someone who's not as well-meaning? It's more about the money, or more about getting you to believe certain things, and that you had a successful session than an authentic session. You get what I'm saying? So that's all I'm saying. Just be careful. That's all. Do your research. Take the time. Don't just settle on somebody because they're, closer to your house. I think I commented in the first video to somebody, or in a thread there, we were talking about past life regression. I think, the majority of us are, if we're going to find someone, we're probably going to have to do a little bit of traveling to get to them, and dedicate like a weekend or like a long weekend to doing multiple sessions, and it might, you may have to hop a plane, or you may have to drive 200, 300, 400 miles. I don't know, right? To find someone that you're comfortable with, but at least you're going to go into that session feeling more comfortable going with them than you would, Dr. Love and Light, who's 30 minutes from your house, and, looks at Dolores Cannon as an alien deity. I'm just saying.
Such a request might be phrased: tonight I would like to dream about an unpainful past life in which I knew my current husband. Or, tonight I would like to dream about an unpainful past life which explains my current religious concerns. Step 3. On retiring, after you have placed yourself in a state of relaxation, repeat the request several times aloud and focus on it as you drift off to sleep. The next morning when you awake, or during the night if you wake following a dream, write down any dream experiences that you have had, no matter how cryptic. Remember that although many past life dreams will be clear and straightforward, a few, like Van Waveren's dream about the judge with the 9 diamonds suspended beneath his arm, will be expressed in the sometimes daunting symbolic language of the unconscious. If, following the dream-inducing exercise, you have a vivid or moving dream, but at first it does not seem to pertain to your question, meditate upon it and let it incubate in your conscious mind. Look beneath its literal level and try to determine whether it has any allegorical meaning. If you still cannot figure out what it means, ask your dreaming self for further guidance. After trying the above exercise, if you do not have immediate success, try it again, making sure that when you ask for a particular dream, you are completely relaxed and are indeed focusing your thoughts intently on the request. If you still do not have success, try modifying the exercise in some way. For example, before going to bed, spend some time thinking about why you are asking that particular question and what you might gain by knowing the answer. Even write a paragraph or 2 in your dream journal about your expectations. By spending this time focusing consciously on your request, you will increase the likelihood of impressing your desire in your unconscious mind. Before going to bed, you might even spend some time imagining that you are already in the midst of your requested dream and actually visualizing what you expect to see. If you do not know what to expect visually from a requested past life dream, imagine instead the emotions you anticipate experiencing, and be sure to emphasize positive reactions, such as feelings of calm, increased understanding, and joy. Do not expect all past life dream experiences to be visual reenactments or even symbolic scenes. After programming myself to have a past life dream, I have had dreams that contained no visual scenes at all, but consisted entirely of auditory experiences in the form of disembodied voices telling me the answers to my questions. I've also had dreams in which I was presented the information in written form. For example, a few years back I met a well-known Jamaican actress. The moment we were introduced, we were both swept with a powerful feeling of familiarity, a sense that we had known each other for a long, long time. We became instant good friends, and although we didn't discuss it at the time, we later learned that we both shared a conviction that we had known each other in a previous life. About 2 years after our meeting, a talented psychic was giving me a reading and suddenly started to describe my actress friend in detail, her lifestyle, emotional temperament, physical appearance, everything. He even described the nature of our friendship, the subjects we tended to talk about, and the things we shared in common. Then he told me that the first time we were friends was in a life in the 1700s in a French fort somewhere in what is now the eastern United States. He also told me many other things that seemed to shed new light on the nature and intricacies of our current friendship. My curiosity piqued, I decided to program a dream to see if it could tell me more about this revelation, and that evening while I slept, I had a dream that I was flying through a universe that was filled with nothing but an ocean of words, all suspended motionless in space. The firmament of this cosmos of words was not dark, but white, so that all of the floating words stood out sharply, and as I zoomed through this three-dimensional dictionary, I suddenly approached one word that filled my entire screen of vision, Onondaga. I did not know what the word meant at the time, but I wrote it down in my dream journal. When I researched the matter the next day, I found that Onondaga is the name of a lake in Syracuse, New York, and it was the site of Fort Ste. Marie Delaware Genentaha, an old French post and one of the area's first settlements. How to continue a dream once you are awake. If you have a past life dream but do not understand what it is telling you, you have several options. You can simply make a note of it in your past life journal and wait until further information turns up that helps you make sense of it. You can request further information to come through your dreams. You can use the dream as the subject of a past life meditation, or you can continue the dream once you are awake by employing a technique devised by Jung and known as active imagination. In active imagination, a person is completely awake but enters a relaxed state and then visualizes an evocative image or scene from a dream that he desires to know more about. Then, without any conscious interference, the visualizer simply allows the dream image to do what it will, growing and changing in whatever way its own internal processes dictate. Active imagining is a sort of conscious form of dreaming. Or, as British psychiatrist Anthony Storr puts it, it is a state of reverie in which judgment is suspended but consciousness preserved. To continue a dream by employing active imagination, set aside approximately half an hour. Find a comfortable place and enter a state of relaxation. Once you have quieted your thoughts and feel completely relaxed, visualize the past life dream you wish to explore further, and once again conjure up every detail you remember about the dream. You might also want to have a tape recorder present so that you do not have to interrupt your active imagining process by taking note. Then, once you have as vivid a recreation of the dream image as you can muster, simply sit back and allow the image to do whatever it wants. Remember also to follow your impulses. For example, if you are visualizing the image of an 18th century Austrian ballroom and you find that you suddenly have an urge to go through a doorway at the opposite end of the room, allow your imaginary self to go through the doorway. However, don't consciously try to anticipate what you are going to find there.
That's such a great statement. Let's just rewind that because it's so good. And I do got to let the beast out, so I got to stop it at some point or pause it. But he just, he's just going.
Simply
really
sit
well.
back and allow the image to do whatever it wants. Remember also to follow your impulses. For example, if you are
follow your impulses, that's your intentions, that's your drive. Now those can be manipulated, but the point is by allowing yourself to, I hate the term let go, but by letting go, you can open doors. It's not going to hurt you here. It can impact you, obviously, if you allow it to. If you allow yourself to manifest it or imply the wrong intention at death, because it can result in staying stuck in the matrix. But you're here, you're now, you're just exploring and prodding for information, right? That's okay. As long as, you keep your sovereign intention grounded or flowing through you the entire time. That's all. That's all. But you're opening yourself up to rediscovering the information that was lost, the connection that was once lost about who and what you are and what you did in your existence here. Not just this lifetime, but past lifetimes.
Simply sit back and allow the image to do whatever it wants. Remember also to follow your impulses. For example, if you are visualizing the image of an 18th century Austrian ballroom and you find that you suddenly have an urge to go through a doorway at the opposite end of the room, allow your imaginary self to go through the doorway. However, don't consciously try to anticipate what you are going to find there. Just sit back and allow your imagination to roam freely in any direction that it wishes. Similarly, don't be concerned if the ballroom suddenly becomes a boat, or if some inanimate object like a statue or a grandfather clock starts talking to you or giving you advice. Remember always that the language of inner experience is a symbolic one. Jung also encouraged his patients to draw and paint their active imaginings, and this is another approach that you might try. Once you have actively imagined a sequence of scenes or impressions, study them and see if any particular themes or messages pop out at you. Just as with dreams, do not automatically assume that the information you glean from active imagining is a literal transcript of one of your past lives. It may be, or it may be a symbolic message from your unconscious, or even a stream of allegorical images pertaining to a range of psychological events taking place in your mind. Whatever the case, concentrate on the scene or image that strikes you as the most meaningful and see what its overall message is telling you. If you find, for example, you see an image of many people starving, examine yourself and see if your unconscious mind is actually trying to tell you that there is some part of you that is starving. Similarly, if you see an image of Marilyn Monroe, do not automatically assume that you have some sort of past life association with Marilyn Monroe.
I'm Julius Caesar, Marilyn Monroe, George Washington, and everyone in between. All right, so I do have to take a break. Give me about 5 minutes, maybe 5, 6, 7 minutes, somewhere around there. Depends how fast they go, but I do got to let the beast out. And we'll be back shortly. I appreciate your patience, and I'll see you soon, okay? So please consider hitting the like button and all that fun stuff while we're there. Subscribe if you're new. Maybe send out a little share on your social media. All that fun stuff. All right. Be right back, my friends. I'm going to put 5 minutes down, but it's going to be a little bit more than that, okay? Thank you. Hey guys, just be about 90 seconds, all right? Be 90 seconds. Maybe 91 seconds. All right, guys. We're coming back to part 2 of your past lives. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate it. Okay. This is a reminder, if you'd like to support the channel, it's always greatly appreciated but never expected. You have memberships available and a monthly members live stream, usually in the last Sunday of every month. And there's also access to an archive of past live streams and early access videos, as well as an invite into the private members Discord server and chat and research server, I should say. Feel free to check out the description for further information.
Instead, ask yourself what Marilyn Monroe represents to you on an archetypal or symbolic level, and see if that image helps you unravel the message your unconscious is giving you. Once you feel that you have deciphered such a sequence of images, write them down in your past life journal as another possible area wiped off your past life fresco. In addition to being a tool for unraveling past life dreams, active imagination has many other applications as well. Jung encouraged his patients to use it as a way of establishing a consistent and continuing dialogue with their unconscious minds, an ongoing process that Jung felt was a vital part of every human being's daily life. Lucid dreaming, another dreaming technique that can be used to unearth past life information, but which is more difficult to master, is lucid dreaming, or the ability to be awake in one's dreams. In a lucid dream, Not only are you completely conscious of the fact that you are dreaming, but you can also use that awareness to direct and control the subject matter of the dream. I have only been able to program myself to have a few past life lucid dreams, but I count them among the most profound experiences in my life. Thus, in spite of the difficulty of mastering the ability, lucid dreaming is still a method worth exploring. Like many of the techniques offered in this book, lucid dreaming is a very ancient practice. In Tibet, the ability to be awake in one's dreams was considered prerequisite to spiritual advancement and was known as the yoga of the dream state or milam. In his book The Tantric Mysticism of Tibet, the distinguished Orientalist and translator of the I Ching John Blofeld states, "In this yoga, the adept is taught to enter the dream state at will, to explore its characteristics and return to the waking state without any break in his stream of normal consciousness. Thereby he discovers the illusory nature of both states and learns how to die, and to be reborn without loss of memory." Although researchers in the Western world have been studying lucid dreaming for at least a century, it has only been in the past several years that this curious mental state has really come into its own among members of the scientific community. In 1981, the Association for the Psychophysiological Study of Sleep acknowledged lucid dreaming as a phenomenon worthy of scientific scrutiny by allowing a number of papers to be presented on the subject, and since then increasing numbers of researchers have been drawn to it. Techniques for inducing lucid dreams. Before you can learn how to induce a past life lucid dream, it is first necessary to learn how to have lucid dreams in general. After learning how to remember your dreams, one technique is simply to request a lucid dream during your nightly dream programming session. This can be accomplished by telling yourself, "Tonight while I am dreaming, I am going to realize that I am dreaming." As with all dream requests, this sentence should be meditated upon and repeated several times with conviction.
Now, this is great advice. A lot of people have, well, I don't know about a lot of people, but it's one of those recommendations that people seem to have a good success rate with. So just take note of this. I'm going to rewind it. If I'm dreaming, I know I'm dreaming, and there's all sorts of fail-safe mechanisms that you can apply or implement, I should say, in order to verify this in the dream state. And then if you get, if you're lucid enough, and this is the problem, it's a problem, but it's also helpful because if you realize when you're in these states, then you can sometimes roll them over into a more, I'd say, lucid out-of-body experience, right? I think lucid dreaming and OBEs are pretty much in the same territory, but it's just the level of awareness, lucidity that's involved that differentiates the two. Just my opinion.
Session. This can be accomplished by telling yourself, "Tonight while I am dreaming, I am going to realize that I am dreaming." As with all dream requests, this sentence should be meditated upon and repeated several times with conviction. In his book Lucid Dreaming, an excellent source book on both the history and current scientific status of lucid dreaming, Stanford University psychologist Stephen LaBerge offers an alternative method that he arrived at as the result of his research at the Stanford University Sleep Laboratory. LaBerge, one of the modern pioneers in lucid dreaming research, calls his method the mnemonic induction of lucid dreams or MILD. In spite of its somewhat intimidating name, LaBerge notes that MILD is based on nothing more complex or esoteric than our ability to remember that there are actions we wish to perform in the future. After stressing that a powerful desire to have a lucid dream is essential, LaBerge outlines the procedure in 4 simple steps. 1. At some point in the early morning when you have awakened spontaneously from a dream, quickly go over every detail of the dream in your mind and repeat the process several times until you have completely memorized the dream. 2. Then, while you are still lying in bed, repeat to yourself several times, "Next time I'm dreaming, I want to remember to recognize that I'm dreaming." 3. After repeating this phrase, picture yourself back in the dream you just finished dreaming, only imagining that this time you realize that you are dreaming. 4. Keep the visualization in your mind until it is clearly fixed or you fall back asleep. If all goes well, LaBerge asserts that by following this procedure, you will find yourself lucid in another dream, although not necessarily one that resembles the previous dream. German psychologist Paul Tholey suggests that you can induce lucid dreams simply by getting into the habit of asking yourself, "Am I dreaming?" 5 or 10 times a day. By habitually asking yourself whether you are dreaming during your waking hours, you greatly increase the likelihood that you will ask yourself the same question while you are dreaming, and by adhering to this procedure, Tholey asserts that most people will have a lucid dream within a month. One trick I use to help me stick to this regimen is to write the question on little note cards and place the cards in various places I glance at often during the day. For example, you can place a card on the mirror in the bathroom cabinet where you'll see it when you brush your teeth, above the sink where you do dishes, on your desk or in a desk drawer that you open and shut frequently, on a nightstand, on a bookmark, on a frequently used notebook, and, if you are inventive, you might even want to tape a small reminder of some sort somewhere on the face of your watch. Tholey's suggestion is not new. In his book Teachings of Tibetan Yoga, the Buddhist scholar Garma C. Chang cites a passage from an 11th century Tibetan manuscript that offers a similar technique for inducing a lucid dream. After first advising the adept to cultivate a powerful desire to become conscious in the dream state and to stay away from intoxicants and other substances that pollute the body, the manuscript states, to think continuously in the daytime that all one sees, hears, touches, is in a dream, will greatly increase one's chances of recognizing dreams at night. Although not couched in the form of a question, the end result of such an exercise, constantly reinforcing an introspective attitude toward the possible dreamlike nature of an experience, remains the same. In his now famous series of books detailing his conversations with a Yaqui Indian brujo or sorcerer named Don Juan, the anthropologist Carlos Castaneda reports that the Yaqui Indians also speak of a special type of dreaming that bears a striking resemblance to lucid dreaming. As Don Juan informed Castaneda, dreaming entailed cultivating a peculiar control over one's dreams to the extent that the experiences undergone in them and those lived in one's waking hours acquired the same pragmatic valence. The sorcerer's allegation was that under the impact of dreaming, the ordinary criteria to differentiate a dream from reality became imperative. The technique Don Juan taught Castaneda to use to achieve such a lucid state was to associate constantly looking at his hands with realizing that he was dreaming. The point was, of course, that by inextricably linking the two activities together in his mind, sooner or later Castaneda would glance at his hands in a dream and trigger the same realization. Castaneda reports that although acquiring lucidity in a dreaming state was difficult to master, he eventually became successful by employing this method. What to do if you have problems? For some people, lucid dreaming is a relatively easy talent to acquire, but for most it takes practice. If you try lucid dreaming but have no success, there are several things you can do. One is to set your alarm for very early in the morning and perform a lucidity programming meditation then. Research has shown that lucid dreaming is a much easier state to attain after several hours of sleep, and most lucid dreams occur in the early morning. For those who are having difficulty, Garfield suggests thinking more about dreams during the day, concentrating on trying to recognize what sort of rules distinguish your waking experiences from those you have come to expect in your dreams. Again, because we are prone to dreaming about what occupies our waking thoughts, this practice has a tendency to heighten dream awareness during sleep. The 11th century Tibetan manuscript cited by Chang asserts that if a person is still not successful after many attempts, this is an indication that his mind is full of distracting thoughts, or his yearning to do so is weak. And these two problems must be remedied before success can be expected. How to induce a past life lucid dream. Although there is little modern research connecting the lucid dreaming state to past life recall, researchers agree that you can choose and direct virtually anything you wish to occur in a lucid dream, so past life recall is not precluded. In my own past life,
you can direct, which means intention, right? See, like that's the thing, is it's all about it sounds convoluted, but I think anyone who's deep into this topic, including the top researchers into lucid dreaming / OBEs, would agree with me when we talk about how the level of lucidity plays a role. And as you go into these techniques, these experiences, the dedication and intention that you're putting into all of this, that level of lucidity increases. For me, like, I've, bitched and moaned a number of times on this channel about like how my experiences are few and far between, but when I have them, they're extremely profound. Like they're, it's just, and I think that has to do with the effort put into it, like the learning and the growth and the trial and the errors and a lot of failures. But when I do have them, they're extremely profound, and I'm on like a good lucid state. But I noticed over time that increases, right? And where we're talking about, again, like, dare I say it, the percentage of lucidity, awareness, things that you can take back, things that you can value and cross confirm in some way, right? Or you're just like an intuition, like an inner knowing that comes back with you with the information that you have and documenting it, right? But it, like, I think I know everybody's different, because you have some people out there who can do this no problem. You have others out there, who have like dedicated their lives or their profession to something like this, and haven't given up. And I would think that they'd probably agree with me that, it's all about slowly. Well, I don't want to say slowly, because again, everybody's different, but for me, it's slowly kind of opening up that lucidity. And so when you do have those experiences, they're just like, wow, like they blow you away. And then you have the bullshitters, right? I mean, there's a really well-known bullshitter out there who talks about out-of-body experiences, and he's all over the internet, and he is completely full of shit. I'm not going to say his name. But he's out there, and that's the problem when you get everything's like waters are muddied and all that stuff. It sucks. It sucks because it just brings down the real research, right? Of those who are like dedicated to this topic. They spent their lives in this area, right? And then you have some clown just come on and just say this, and that. Oh, well, I was hanging out with the Arcturians the other night, and and we were having a glass of wine, and they were telling me all about this and that, and then I came back, and hey, I got 100% recall. We were chilling, everything was good, and here's my message. I'm just saying, like, there's various levels, and on the internet, it does not matter what topic it is. Doesn't matter. If it's something popular, if it's something well known, especially if it's like something to do with consciousness expansion, lucid awareness, politics, government, all this stuff, like these things are infiltrated to the hills and back. And it's all in an effort to muddy the water so that you don't know left from right, up from down, right? So that you just keep spinning your wheels. But there are those gems out there, and they can help tremendously in, garnering a better practice. And again, like don't get frustrated, my friends. Like there's a lot of failures, at least for me, in between the wins, right? In between like the successful sessions. And when you have that successful session, it makes up for all the failures. So just think it over. Just think it over. Don't get discouraged. That's the main message.
Lucid dreams, I have employed various techniques. For example, in one, on finding myself awake and in the midst of a lucid dream, I merely willed myself to go back to a past life scene and found myself whisked back through time on a vivid past life memory experience. In another, on awakening in the dream, I found myself in the presence of another individual, an indistinct but human-shaped energy presence that emanated a feeling of great wisdom and compassion, and I asked this entity to show me one of my past lives. At this request, the entity took me by the hand and literally flew me through the clouds.
Asked an entity to show me a past life. At this point, so requesting for an entity to do something at his behest, his request, and
passion, and I asked this entity to show me one of my past lives. At this request, the entity took me by the hand and literally flew me through the clouds and back through time. It then proceeded to explain to me what I was seeing and answered my questions as we visited a scene from one of my previous incarnations. The key to turning a lucid dream into past life lucid dream thus appears to be simply to will it to happen. However, if you find yourself in a lucid state, it is very important that you keep your thoughts positive and focused. In one lucid dream experience, while I was flying over a beautiful mountain lake, I suddenly became frightened at the realization that all I had to do was imagine a sea serpent beneath the waters of the lake, and one would materialize. Sure enough, as soon as this thought passed through my mind, a sea serpent started to materialize in the depths of the sparkling clear waters, and like a dutiful Sainwa child, I had to suppress my fear quickly and will the sea serpent to vanish before I could continue. The lesson inherent in this is that during a past life lucid dream, you should always be on your guard to keep extraneous thoughts and impulses from steering the dream off in other directions. I feel that it is important to point out that the only time I have not encountered this danger during a past life lucid dream is when I have been guided through the experience by the aforementioned guardian figures. Other researchers have also commented on the apparent importance of such dream guide. For example, Garfield reports that, although it has not yet...
All right, before he continues, I want to go to Penny's statement. What gets me freaked out is when people touch me or grab me in my dreams. This is a big issue, and it's something that seems to be neglected in lucid dreaming, OBEs, nightmares, research, let's say, right? There is a creepy, I've experienced it. I'm sure many of you have experienced it. There's also plenty of statements about it, about, hands getting a little too touchy-feely in dreams, right? It's strange. And it's something that seems to happen a lot. And so I think Penny, and good to see you, Penny, makes a really on-point statement. What gets me freaked out is when people touch me or grab me in my dreams. And a lot of people won't go further and say, some of the most horrible shit that has occurred in their dreams because it's horrible. It's a straight up assaults, right? And I'm just pointing that out because these things do happen. And I think the difference is once you kind of know when you're comfortable in your footing and your intentions, you can prevent these things. But if you don't know it, you're essentially open season. And it's creepy as hell, guys. Creepy. And it feels very real when it's happening. So I'm just putting that out there. The importance of intention with all of this and being able to realize in your lucid state that you can rid yourself of that situation instantly, which goes to the whole thing about intention. Just one example, but it's a big example because you can get yourselves out of these situations if you're lucidly aware. Now, the problem is not all situations are like that. But I think the majority of us here, we're a little more aware and awake to what's going on and that these possibilities can happen. And so you can subconsciously remind yourself of this in the moment if these things start to occur and rid yourself of these horrific experiences. So yeah, it's really, really important stuff to make sure like that can't be stated enough. That these things happen, they're very real, and that we need to take control of those situations and rid any sort of entity or being or situation that is even remotely hinting at that becoming a possibility.
Encountered this danger during a past life lucid dream is when I have been guided through the experience by the aforementioned guardian figures. Other researchers have also commented on the apparent importance of such dream guide. For example, Garfield reports that, although it has not yet become a part of modern lucid dream research, the concept of conjuring up a protective guardian figure can be found in many older and culturally diverse schools of thought. Among the Native Americans, such dream friends were essential before the seeker could undertake extensive journeys through the world of dreams. The Ojibwe referred to them as Manitos, guardian spirits. In Tibet they were referred to as Viras, heroes, and Dakinis, fairies, and every adept was advised to make friends with one of several before traveling deeper into the varied planes of the dream state. The Sainwa call them simply father or child friend, and although every Sainwa dreamer cultivates at least one or two, those who are lucky enough to make the acquaintance of many such guardian figures are considered to be great shamans. It is intriguing to note that the Sainwa believe that a guardian figure need not be human in appearance to provide such protection, but can be equally effective even if it assumes the shape of a natural object such as a rock or flower. Thus, once you have reached the point where you can induce your own past life lucid dream, instead of venturing off on your own, you may always want to conjure up a guide or dream friend to assist you. The kinds of image you might visualize as a dream friend and what such guardian figures represent are both topics that will be discussed in the next chapter. Meditation technique. For various reasons, meditation, accompanied by a life of altruism and service, may ultimately prove to be the best path to self-knowledge and knowledge of one's past existences. Properly done, meditation carries with it the greatest spiritual and psychological safeguard. In this method, the memories are not forced to the surface, nor is the knowledge of them likely to come prematurely. Their intimacy is preserved and their import is not likely to be misunderstood by an alien, though sympathetic, viewer. Gina Sermonara, Many Lives, Many Loves. Once you have learned to make past life information surface in your dreams, with a little practice you can also encourage it to surface while you are awake. One of the most commonly used techniques for doing this is meditation. The use of meditation to unlock memories of past lives is by no means new. As early as the 4th century B.C., Patanjali, the founder of yoga philosophy, was telling his students that they could remember their previous births simply by engaging in meditation. Similarly, in the Ida Vitaka, an ancient Buddhist text, it is written that through devotion to meditation one can recollect many a past existence with all its characteristic features and particulars, and be able to say, "There I have been and had such a name, belonged to such a family, had such an appearance, ate such kinds of food, partook of such pleasures and sufferings, and such was my lifespan." Safeguards to establish before beginning meditation. The only difference between ancient and modern meditation techniques is that most of the ancient ones assert that months, even years, of rigorous practice are required to achieve results. However, modern research has shown that recalling past life memories through meditation is astonishingly easy, so easy, in fact, that many investigators warn past life explorers not to let rapid success seduce them into blundering ahead recklessly without first establishing the proper safeguards. Safeguard 1. Do not begin with an attitude of fear or worry. For most people, exploring past lives through resonance or dreams is a relatively safe endeavor because both methods involve feelings and processes that they have experienced before. However, when you begin to delve into some of the more advanced techniques given in this book and start to bring your past life memories to the surface more aggressively, you may find yourself swept with fears and apprehensions. One fear that many people have is that they will unlock a memory which is too painful for them to deal with. Another is that they will stumble across a past life in which they were a shameful or disreputable individual. These are both possibilities, but as I pointed out in Chapter 1, as a rule, your unconscious mind will automatically protect you from memories that are too painful or traumatic for your conscious mind to deal with. You can also help your unconscious mind perform this natural function by trusting in its ability to protect you and maintaining an attitude of peace and calm whenever you embark on any deep past life explorations. Do not expect anything painful or bad to happen because such expectations can, in a sense, become self-fulfilling prophecies. Your unconscious mind takes things very literally, and if it constantly perceives that all of your requests for past life information are colored by fear, it can sometimes mistakenly assume that you are actually requesting fearful information. Safeguard 2. Proceed cautiously and listen to your own inner counsel. Although your unconscious mind will naturally
Listen to your own inner counsel, but at the same time, this is really important, guys. Don't let yourself get too ahead of things where you lose that connection, right? So many times in my past, right? I can think of numerous occasions when I've had, let's say, like breakthrough moments or of all sorts of things, spiritually, through meditation, all sorts of things, right? And you can lose yourself in those moments, and then essentially turn on autopilot and not check in with yourself and kind of forget yourself. And it could be a really dangerous area to get into if you let it get too ahead of you. So just think about that. Again, it's not doom and gloom stuff. It's just like, hey, check in with yourself. Don't get to the point where you get obsessive about something and allow yourself breaks, right? Allow yourself to check in and take breaks, and you don't have to do it every day or anything like that. Just allow yourself to check in with you and be honest with yourself, because you don't want these things getting ahead of you, because that opens the door for, I'm just going to say it straight out, entity manipulation. There's no padding that and painting it as something that it isn't, because that's what could happen. But you know yourself, and you can control these things and keep them tamed so that you're not allowing yourself to fully give yourself away through certain practices. That's all. Don't be afraid. Just do what you need to do and check in with yourself. Be honest. That's all. That's the most important thing.
Your requests for past life
I wish I learned things like that when I was going through all this, because I didn't. These things are conveniently left out of spiritual practices a lot of the times, and I think it's dangerous, and I think it's also awesome that Michael Talbot is touching on this type of stuff, because it's rarely discussed. Rarely.
Painful or bad to happen, because such expectations can, in a sense, become self-fulfilling prophecies. Your unconscious mind takes things very literally, and if it constantly perceives that all of your requests for past life information are colored by fear, it can sometimes mistakenly assume that you are actually requesting fearful information. Safeguard 2. Proceed cautiously and listen to your own inner counsel. Although your unconscious mind will naturally try to protect you, you must do your part and pay attention to what it is telling you. Move slowly, and as memories start to surface, pay careful attention to what your own intuitive voice advises you to do next. If you start to unlock what seems to be an innocuous past life memory, but you are suddenly filled with an inexplicable uneasiness or feeling of foreboding, stop. Either abandon probing that memory altogether, or ask your unconscious mind for advice on what to do next by employing a pendulum, finger movements, or by requesting that the information be given to you in a dream. But above all, do not just plow recklessly through the inner reaches of your psyche. Your psyche is a complex and multilayered entity, and you must treat it with both consideration and respect if you are to negotiate its labyrinthine passageways safely.
Oh, that is just such a spot-on statement. Cheers to that. That is essential right there.
Labyrinthine passageways safely. Safeguard 3. Actively solicit the advice of your unconscious mind. Perhaps the most important point for you to keep in mind as you unravel your past lives is that your true self, the self that contains the totality of all your incarnations and which now lies hidden in your unconscious mind, is far vaster and more experienced than your current conceptions of yourself may allow. It is also intelligent and wise and waiting anxiously to share its wisdom with you, to help you blossom into the larger being that is both your birthright and your destiny. Get into the habit of communicating with this larger and wiser part of you by carrying on a regular dialogue with your unconscious mind. Consult your unconscious mind, not only about possible painful or traumatic past life memories, but about all decisions involving past life explorations, or anything else in your life on which you seek advice. Again, use whatever technique is easiest for you, pendulum, finger movements, or dreams. As you become more adept at communicating with your unconscious mind, you may find that you can eventually dispense with these procedures and communicate directly with your inner self. For example, you may find that you will reach a point at which you can mentally ask a question and your own intuitive voice will instantly tell you the answer. The truth is that the unconscious mind is always giving us pieces of advice and flashes of insight. The reason that we are generally unaware of this fact is that all too often we allow our minds to be so overrun with the ceaseless chatter of everyday thoughts that we do not pay attention to the ever-present whisperings of our unconscious. Nonetheless, you can do yourself no greater favor than to establish an ongoing line of communication with your unconscious mind, your vaster and wiser self. Safeguard 4. Ask for protection from a guardian figure. One of the most intriguing phenomena that surface during explorations of the human unconscious are the appearance of guardian figures. These are angels, spirit guides, or cosmic teachers who protect the explorer and offer guidance during journeys through the landscape of the inner self. As we have seen, such figures surface often in dream explorations, but they are associated with numerous other phenomena having to do with the human psyche. For example, people who have undergone near-death experiences, or NDEs, frequently report that they were guided or watched over by some sort of protective and loving spiritual entity during their experience. In the field of transpersonal psychology, the branch of psychology that studies non-ordinary or altered states of consciousness, encounters with spiritual or suprahuman entities are also frequently reported. Even individuals who routinely spend time in isolation tanks report encounters with such guides or teachers. So it is not surprising that the spontaneous appearance of guardian figures also plays an important role in many past life experiences. Past life therapists have found that patients often report the presence of guides when they are regressed to states of past life awareness. Such guides perform various functions. Sometimes they explain what is happening during a past life experience or why a particular lifetime has been shown to an individual. Sometimes they are present merely to offer advice and moral support. Interestingly, researchers have found that when individuals are regressed to the interim between one past life and the next, they often report that many spiritual teachers are present to counsel them and help them plan their next birth. What are such beings? Some people prefer to view them simply as personified aspects of their own unconscious mind, similar to Freud's concept of the superego. Others believe that they are actual spiritual entities existing on higher planes of consciousness. Whatever the explanation, many past life therapists have found that such personages can be invaluable in guiding a subject to those memories which contain the most beneficial information. They can also help guide an individual away from memories that are too painful to explore safely. Because of the protective and positive function of these entities, some therapists refuse to regress a subject unless it is done under the guidance of a guardian figure. For example, California psychiatrist Dr. Ernest Pecci states, "I rarely perform a past life regression unless my subject has successfully contacted a spiritual guide or teacher who represents a link to the inner mind and who can assume an important function in helping to direct the course of the therapy."
Wow. Wow. Did you hear that? We're going to have to rewind that. But before we do so, I just want to give a big thank you to for the very kind and generous super chats. Okay, they disappeared. I'm sorry. I want to get B-Arc for the very kind super chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. The super sticker. Thank you. Thank you. And longtime subscriber and member. I appreciate you. And also Roman Revolution says, "This is why this channel is so important. Thanks, Mark, for all you do." Thank you. Appreciate you, Dave. Both of you. Thank you so much for the super chat. And everyone who, excuse me, supports the channel, whether it's through membership, super chat, or even just liking, subscribing, sharing the video, commenting helps a lot. Thank you. I appreciate you all. But let's rewind this and just hear what he just said. So we're talking about someone who's here. Just listen.
Of these entities. Some therapists refuse to regress a subject unless it is done under the guidance of a guardian figure.
So there are this is like entering a number of territories in the past life regression universe, and that's why you got to be careful. So unless there's a guide involved in all of this, some regression therapists won't even get involved. So unless the matrix is inserting itself and holding the hand of somebody, then nope, all bets are off. I'm not getting involved. What kind of bullshit's that? What kind of matrix reinforcement bullshit is that? That's a matrix reinforcement officer if I've ever heard it. That's not cool. Not cool. So instead of figuring it out in a sovereign way, right? You're just going to say, oh, well, let's get the guides up in here. Let's get the Ascended Masters and let's move it. Come on, guys. We got some work to do. Otherwise, get out of here. Refund your money.
Of these entities. Some therapists refuse to regress a subject unless it is done under the guidance of a guardian figure. For example, California psychiatrist Dr. Ernest Pecci states, I mean,
his last name is, he's part of the Joe Pesci family. I mean, it's like Goodfellas. Hey, you better get your guides and your counselors down here, or we're not going to see you. We're going to put you in a hole in the desert. A lot of holes in the desert.
Perform a past life regression unless my subject has successfully contacted a spiritual guide or teacher who represents a link to the inner mind and who can assume an important function in helping to direct the course of the therapy. Before you embark on a past life meditation or any of the other more advanced techniques that will be given in this book, you should first seek the advice and protection of a guardian figure.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure they'll protect you all the way. They're known for their protection. They're such beautiful, beautiful entities. They're always looking out for you, always looking out for me. Everything's love and light, but you better follow what they say.
To do this, decide which of the explanations of guardian figures you feel the most comfortable with. For example, decide whether you prefer to view your own guardian figures as an expression of your superego or unconscious mind, an actual spiritual entity or entity.
The whole superego thing, the whole disillusion of the ego thing, all these things that are said about the ego, non-duality. I'm just going to say it, and I'll probably lose some subscribers, but I don't care. Those who get it, get it. Like, I don't believe for a minute that you can be in the human vessel and be non-dual or ego-free. There's always going to be some semblance of that there. Now, can you deflate it? Can you work on it and all that? Sure, of course. And I'm sure many of us are kind of like down to like a bare bones minimum of that. But can you fully get rid of it? Can you have a non-dual meditation and fully rid yourself of that for the rest of your life here? I don't think so. And it's a thing out there. It's like a big, big thing on the internet, all this stuff with non-dual meditation and and disillusion of the ego and blah, 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 right? Now, if you get yourself in a headspace where you believe that and work on that, I think that's great, right? I think it's a big stepping stone, but can you fully dissolve that 100% until you're out of here? I don't think so. I just don't. It's not built into the meat suit. The meat suit isn't meant for that. It's the complete opposite, actually. It feeds the ego. Like all sorts of things can feed the ego and get you. It doesn't matter what it is, no matter how big or how small. But the point is it will be there to some extent until you leave here. And who knows? Maybe it's here beyond that. I don't know, but at least for the time being, it's here. But I don't think it matters when we're out of here. But it's clearly a key component of the human experience, no matter how big or how small.
Feel the most comfortable with. For example, decide whether you prefer to view your own guardian figures as an expression of your superego or unconscious mind, an actual spiritual entity or entities existing on a higher plane of consciousness or reality, such as a guardian angel or a spirit guide, a religious personage such as God, Jesus, or Buddha, some other positive alternative that appeals to your own personal belief system, your higher self, or oversoul perhaps. Then, before each past life exploration, spend a few minutes relaxing and visualizing the guardian figure you have chosen. If you feel that you do not know what the guardian figure you have chosen might look like, visualize him or her as a being composed entirely of a pure and brilliant white light. If this image still does not work for you, simply try to imagine what your guardian figure's presence might feel like. For instance, try to imagine the presence of a being whose only goal is to love, guide, and protect you. Then, once you feel that you have the image of your guardian figure in your mind, or sense its presence in some other way, recite the following out loud. Please guide and protect me as I now enter into my deeper self to explore who and what I have been in previous lives.
Now, see, take that script and remove the guide, right? Remove the external influence that could potentially reach in and kind of control you, right? So that's the thing. It's like all about, like, this book's great, but you just have to tweak the script a little bit to it being a sovereign script, not a script based on external influence or, external influence. That's probably the best way to put it. Do you. Don't allow external beings, matrix entities, whatever the case may be, to like hold you by the hand and say, hey, this is that. Find it naturally within, through your own work, through your own intention, through your own direction.
Recite the following out loud. Please guide and protect me as I now enter into my deeper self to explore who and what I have been in previous lives. Gently lead me to only those memories that I am ready to re-experience and which will teach me things that will help me grow and become a happier, healthier, and more fulfilled person in this life. Shield me from anything that it is too painful for me to re-experience and protect me from all things negative as I travel on my way. For this I offer you my blessings and thank you for your wisdom and loving protection. If you wish, at this point you can also ask your guardian figures to help guide you to the answer to any other questions that you have, such as, why was a particular memory shown to me? What can I do to integrate the information I have learned into my everyday life? What can I do to heal some repeating karmic problem that I have learned about? Always remember to thank your guardian figures for their assistance and treat them with reverence and respect. You should do this even if you view them as subcomponents of your own unconscious mind. The unconscious mind speaks in a language of symbols. By treating its symbolic emissaries with respect, you communicate to your psyche how you would like it to behave toward you. Safeguard 5. Surround yourself with a protective white light. In addition to calling upon the protection of a guardian figure,
I wish I had a siren. I think I do have a siren. Although it's not queued up enough for me to... I don't remember which one. Is it this one? All right. No white light. No white light. I think that might be it. I don't know. Anyways. You know what it is? Replace the... This is what you do. See, like, this is why we're going over the book. I think he's got good protective measures in theory, but they need to be tweaked. So you imagine, like we've talked about, like a chi ball or a chi protective layer, some sort of intention that covers your essence, your meat suit, right? All of it. It's all encompassing, but it's of your own creation. That's the difference, right? Versus something like a white light or whatever. What is the white light? Is the white light a creation, an assumed creation or prototype of the Matrix that is kind of like a go-to thing? Because it sure as hell seems like it. Like, there's a lot of people out there who talk about, like, imagine a protective bubble of white light around you. No. How about just a protective layer of my intention that is going to protect me because it's built through me? That's the difference, right? Really, really important stuff. So you can take these things, these rules, these approaches, and tweak them with sovereign intention.
Safeguard 5. Surround yourself with a protective white light. In addition to calling upon the protection of a guardian figure, many therapists advise their subjects to surround themselves with a protective white light before entering states of past life awareness. Again, like asking for protection from guardian figures, explanations vary from why such a process proves effective. Some say that it is simply another symbolic way of asking the unconscious mind for protection. Others believe that it actually surrounds the past life explorer with a shield of psychic energy that protects one from harmful psychic influences. Whatever the explanation, the technique has a long and varied history and can be found in surprisingly disparate sources, from old books on occultism to modern texts on visualization techniques to help cancer patients to try to rid their bodies of illness. To create such a shield, you should close your eyes and enter a state of relaxation. Then visualize yourself as completely enclosed in a sphere or egg of radiant and protective white light. Imagine that even your breath is luminous and that each time you exhale, you add to the power of the light. With each breath you take, keep visualizing the light getting stronger and stronger until it is so bright that you can scarcely look at it in your mind's eye. When it reaches this point, tell yourself either silently or aloud that you are now completely protected by an impenetrable barrier of light and that nothing untoward or evil can now harm you. What you need to know about
So again, it's the same concept like we were talking about. You take that same concept minus the white light, but through it's a protective layer of your own intention, through your own creation. I used to do this, although I was a little dumber at the time, but I used to do the white light thing, and then I tweaked my script when I would work with orbs and summoning and shit like that, right? Summoning orbs or entities of some kind, right? And I used to have pretty good results where they wouldn't be negative, but there were some negative, like a very small amount, considering the overall interactions that I had. Like the vast majority were very positive, but I was also kind of in a at the time I was kind of in between new agey phases and stuff like that. So I was a little more my intentions were directed in a certain way where I guess it might not happen as negatively at that time. But that doesn't mean that those few occurrences didn't teach me a lesson, because they did. And all I did was edit my script, remove the white light, like everything was kind of intention based with sovereign thinking. And I didn't even really necessarily know if it would work, I guess you can say, but it did. And I have not had a problem since. I've had two really creepy three really creepy negative experiences out of probably 100 plus, easily. Maybe a couple 100 plus. I don't know, somewhere around there. And I can't speak for it enough, right? But like if you go in and you start learning other people's techniques and you try this and you try that and you start having successes, success, and then you have a negative experience, well, it makes you rethink things in a big way. And some may just say, oh, it's just a fluke, it's just a bad time, blah, blah, blah. But, back then I felt like deep within that I need to make an adjustment, and that's what I did, and everything was fine after adjusting it a couple times. So make of that what you will. I just think it's important to state, like our intention has a lot of power, guys, a lot of power. And well, it is the power. And this system has curated our essence into believing we have none. And that's the important thing, is to realize the bullshit that we've been fed and go the opposite direction and realize who and what you are, and that you can stand in your true power and make a lot of interesting things happen. Now, is everything going to be perfect all the time? No, it's not. But it's just, you can see it in action and apply it and have a general better overall existence because of it. Now, again, it's not going to be perfect. If I told you the shit that I went through over the last 6-7 weeks, I'm just not going to go over it right now, but it's been hell, right? But it's okay, right? I know it's the ups and downs of being in the meat suit in the Matrix, right? It's okay. Just got to get by. But we all go through it, right? And I think there are certain things we're not necessarily going to know. Well, we're not going to know as it pertains to our life script. And very few, I think, realize the power of intention, true sovereign intention. I don't think there's many out there that really figure that out. And so we can use that to our advantage. But at the same time, our life script has certain things in it, and we don't necessarily know what all of those things are and how they have like a cascade effect, right? And so we need to make the best of it. And sometimes we're going to get the deck thrown at us, and there's not much we can do except try to persevere through the storm and come out the other end okay, and know that it'll be all right. In the long run, everything will be all right, because what's the worst that can happen? Oh, I die? Oh, well. When it happens, it happens. It's okay. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I'm ready.
Meditation before beginning. Once you have familiarized yourself with the safety precautions that you should take, there are a few basics about meditation that you should know. In its simplest terms, meditation is the ability to relax and concentrate your attention on one thing to the exclusion of all else. To do this, it will be necessary for you to master the ability to control and quiet the chatter of your everyday thoughts, to relax, and to completely dispel any physical or emotional tensions that you might have. Although various techniques to accomplish these tasks will be given in this section, it is important that you keep in mind that there is no single correct way to meditate. If you find that one approach doesn't work, don't be afraid to mix and match techniques from various procedures to suit your own personal requirements. Similarly, don't be afraid to come up with your own technique. Just as everyone prefers a different sleeping position and a different hardness or softness of mattress, everyone must also find their own approach to achieving a meditative state. Creating the right atmosphere. Some people assume that they must be sitting in a lotus position in order to be able to meditate, but this is not the case. You may find that sitting in a lotus position helps you meditate, or you may find that you have better results if you sit in an easy chair or lie down on a couch. I personally prefer...
Do you know how few people actually say that? Very few. Very few will tell you that you need to find a comfortable meditation position. There are so many meditation teachers out there, gurus, let's say, who spit out this bullshit like, oh, well, if you're not in the lotus, you're not going to get the full experience and this, that. That's total bullshit. 100%. I've spent probably thousands of hours meditating, and I'm telling you, if you're not comfortable in meditation, you're not going to have a good meditation session. So do what's right for you. This is like, you don't hear this type of stuff. You don't. You know, some of the other stuff may be clouded a little bit in judgment, but you get a little nugget like that, that's really important to acknowledge and put out there, because some people get discouraged about meditation, and there are negatives to meditation. It comes with the territory, but it's all about how you process them and essentially go up against them and confront you. But at the same time, the whole lotus position thing is complete bullshit. If you're not comfortable, don't do it. Like, it's not comfortable for me. I got back problems, neck problems, and shit like that going on. But, you know, if I do it upwards, maybe like with pillows on my back or something like that, I'm fine. No big deal. I don't need to do all sorts of fancy stuff. I can still have a great meditation session and yield the benefits from it. But if you're not comfortable, I'm telling you, you're not going to have a good session. And like, for some reason, this is just like completely ignored out there. It's like, oh, well, you got to do this, you got to do that. You got to, you know, you got to, if you're not in a lotus position or doing this, you could have your back up against something, but if you're not in a lotus position, you're not going to have a good meditation session. No, it's all bullshit. You can still have a great session and yield incredible results over time if you just give it a shot. And it doesn't have to be power meditation sessions for hour, 2 hour, 20 minutes, 15 minutes. I would say 20 minutes is good. But, you don't have to go crazy. Start small and work up, and you'd be surprised at what you can benefit from it.
People assume that they must be sitting in a lotus position in order to be able to meditate, but this is not the case. You may find that sitting in a lotus position helps you meditate, or you may find that you have better results if you sit in an easy chair or lie down on a couch. I personally prefer to lie on a carpeted floor when I meditate, but you should experiment and find the position that suits you best. One word of advice. Many experts advise against trying to meditate while lying in bed because its association with sleep tends to make the mind bypass the meditative state and drift off to sleep. You may also find that it is easier for you to meditate when there is a stick of incense burning, or having an unobtrusive background sound, such as a recording of the ocean or a gentle summer rain, may help you relax. However, it is advisable to turn off the recording after you are in a meditative state, or the sound may unduly color your past life impressions. Refer to Chapter 1 for more ideas on creating the best setting for meditation.
All right, so we're going to wrap things up there, my friends. Appreciate you all for swinging by. We will continue on in our next installment. I want to save where we're at. Okay, we probably got another 2-3 streams, I would say. And I'll probably put in, check the calendar here. We'll probably get together maybe tonight, because we're into the 31st, right? Halloween. Maybe we'll do Halloween. And then, again, the month, if not, it might be like the 4th. All right. So somewhere around there. Yeah. Either the 31st today, technically, or the 4th. Okay. I definitely won't be around Sunday or Monday. And Saturday is the monthly members live stream for October. Okay. So, feel free to check out if you're interested in joining the Last Timers Club and checking out the member stream. We have one on the 1st, and then we have the November member stream on the 30th. Okay. And that will be kicking off at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I appreciate you all. Thank you for the kind super chats and the messages, the comments, all that stuff. Please consider hitting the like button if you're new, subscribing, and sticking with the series and checking out the other content on the channel. I appreciate you, and we'll see each other again soon, all right? Take care of yourselves. Don't work too hard. And thank you again. Much love, my friends.